Video.
No, that you don't want.
Oh,
Okay, they can see the slide.
Yeah, we don't
Yeah.
see me.
I'm just confirming that.
So I'm gonna ask her if she can hear me now. Can you hear me now?
Can hear you online, yes.
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for your patience, everybody. So I'm really happy to be here to share what I've learned about living in Union County most of my life. And I'd like to start this talk by saying, what? We have nature in Union County? And this view, as I mentioned to the people here, is from the top of a high rise in New York City. What am I saying? In Rahway City, looking toward the eastern part of the Union County. You could see Linden, you could see Elizabeth, all the busy stuff that we have here. So, you know, a lot of the county is like this, but we do actually have a lot of nature in Union County. And the next slide, how do I get to the next slide?
I don't know.
Oh, it's the trackpad. The next slide is a aerial, like a satellite view of Union County. And you can see on the eastern side of the county, there's not a lot of green, and the rest of the county has some amount of green. So I'm going to just point out, orient us where we are. So this is the big area green. That's the Watchung Reservation in the northwestern part of the county. We have the Passaic River Park, Passaic River along this part of the county. It's actually a nice part of the Passaic River. The Rahway River kind of winds through from north to south. It's the green squiggly line from north to south, and that ends up in the Arthur Kill. Going from just below Route 22 in the reservation, they call this the Cross County Parkway. It's the Nomakegan Creek that goes through Echo Lake and goes through Lenape Park and goes into Kawami and, you know, out towards the Elizabeth River area. Then we have a few areas like Oak Ridge and Ashbrook Reserve are down here. This is Warnacle Park, which isn't very green at all in this picture. So there are, when I go to look for places to photograph, I look at maps a lot. I look for the green, I look for the blue. Blue is water. This doesn't really show you too much water. You can see Clark Reservoir here and a couple other areas, because where there's water, where there's trees, there's life. And sometimes those green areas are cemeteries. So you never really know. So I want to just go through some of the areas. I'm going to start with kind of the Rahway River area. Let me see if I can figure out how to do that. Oh, there we go. This is a map that actually shows you the towns and everything. So just briefly, we have the Rahway River Parkway snaking this way, Watchung Reservation, Cross County Parkway, Couple Lake, there's Warnaco, Ashbrook. There's a couple other Passaic River Park, couple other parks that you might see here. And I'm not going to read this slide. If you want to take a picture of it, you can take a picture of it or a screenshot of it. It just lists some of the places, but I'm going to go through one by one and tell you what I found there, what I think you might be able to find there, and some tips. So that sound good? Yeah. And if you want to throw out anything, please do throw out anything that you might offer. So I'm kind of starting at the cross of the Rahway River and the Cross County Parkway, the Nomahegan Brook. It meets in Lenape Park, and Lenape Park is really rich with a lot of life, and it's accessible to, oops, let me go back. So yeah, that's fine. Because there's so much water there, there's a lot of water birds there. It's a great place to photograph herons and egrets, and the bugs that fly above the ponds are eaten by the tree swallows and barn swallows and everything like that. It's about 450 acres. There's like a raised dike that goes through it. And there is, when they did the bio blitz there in 2005, they actually recorded over 600 different species of plants and animals. So it's a really rich place to go. And there's a lot of different sections of it. Speaking of birds, one of the ways, you know, flying birds, swallows are really hard to photograph. If you find babies and you focus on the babies, you know the parent will come in and feed them. It's a great way to get a shot without having to go crazy with focus mode. So like listen for babies in the spring and you know the parents will come into that area. One of the denizens in Lenape Park is a green heron. Sometimes you get lucky and they're out in the open, but a lot of times it's like this, you know, they're babies hitting in the branches, you know, they're just low down. You just never really know. They blend in really well. So, but like I said, sometimes you get lucky with the green herons. And it's really cool when you see the ospreys coming through, and they fish in most of the ponds in Union County. They don't really nest here, they nest more on coastal areas, but you can sometimes get lucky with their diving, and sometimes, you know, you can see them coming out of the water. This one was at Lenape Park and actually came up with two little fish, a little snack. And this one came up with, I thought it was a carp, but I heard it was a golden shiner. So I don't know fish that well, but that was from Lenape Park. And you can see this at Nomahegan. You can see it at any of the areas where there's ponds around, especially this time of year. Um, Wonderful ponds are great for insects. I don't know all my dragonflies. Lenny, do you know the name of this dragonfly? Does anyone know dragonflies? I'm embarrassed to say I don't know my dragonflies. But they're really fun to photograph, and you sometimes get a nice clear background with these kind of things. One of the really interesting things I spotted at Lenape was these damselflies that were still, after mating, they were still attached to each other, but the female was laying eggs. So the male's kind of like hanging on straight up, and the female's got her ovipositor, and she's laying eggs in the little mats of moss that are there. But what I thought was really funny is that fish on the left side, he was like a voyeur, like he's watching something he's not supposed to be watching, but really he's probably going to eat those eggs.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. And Nomahegan and Lenape do connect. And so it's, you know, if you have a day to spend, you could go to both parks. It's quite nice. Right now, the cherry blossoms are out. They're kind of,
No,
they're finishing.
they're all gone.
Okay. I saw
Yeah.
cherry blossoms today, but this picture was not taken today.
Yet.
No, I wasn't at Nomahegan. I was somewhere else. I'll tell you about that later. Yeah, there's those early cherry blossoms, and they have those big poofy ones that come out now, that are out right now, but I don't know if they have them in Nomahegan or not.
Nothing was there on, we were there Friday.
Yeah.
Nothing was there.
Nothing was out. Yeah, this was a couple of springs ago when the I was actually photographing an osprey with my giant lens, and I looked the other way and I was like, I can't get that in my giant lens. So I pulled out my cell phone and I took this picture to capture the stormy skies with the colors and everything that popped out. So it's scenic and there's nature at the same time. This was cool. I had never seen an osprey in a red maple tree before when the red maple was coming out. Yeah, I think this was actually on Easter. It sort of looked like an Easter rising to me. And you know, I like taking pictures with, I have the moon and something else. It's really fun when you're trying that. So I sit on the bench, I talk to people, I wait for the ospreys to come, and once in a while I get lucky when I'm there, and some of the other places. Now, in order to get a picture like this where the foreground is in focus and the moon is in focus, you have to do something called focus stacking, which you probably heard of. In this case, I just took a focus point on the flower, a focus point on the moon, and I put them together, and they were there. That's exactly how it was. I didn't move the composition. I just moved my focus point, took two pictures, and then layered one on top of the other in Photoshop, and kind of brushed through so the moon came through. There's different ways to do it, but yeah, Eleni, I think we were together this day. We saw this really cool cormorant. It looks like ice, but it wasn't ice. But the coolest thing was that when they're in their mating plumage or whatever you call it, the inside of their mouths gets blue. So if you've never seen it, it's a pretty neat thing when they open their mouth and you see that blue that matches the eye. It's really striking.
And they're called double crested because of the two little,
Oh yeah, I think the picture,
yeah, you can see them really nice on this,
yeah.
the two little
Does this one
plumes.
work or not? Oh, yeah, there we go. You can
Yeah.
see how it goes like that.
Yeah.
Oh, this is working now. Yeah, double crested cormorant. So this is, you know, I like looking up, but I also really like looking down. And you could go to parks and just find things that are randomly there. So this was another cell phone picture. But I was thinking, what a glorious way for the life of this leaf to end on a bed of duckweed, bejeweled with the morning dew. And it's like, it's going out in style. And I'm like, I want to go out like that when I saw that. So a little further downriver from Nomahegan is a little park called Mohawk Park. It's by the Parkway. Have you guys been to Mohawk Park, being from Cranford? It's right, it's where 136 comes out with Raritan Road and Style Street. It's back in there. You could approach it from Centennial Avenue. In the back there, there are a couple of these nice iron bridges that go through, and they're very photogenic. There's trails along the way. You can walk along the street. It's a really lovely park. Charlene and I found a great horned owl there earlier this spring, right there next to the path. That was pretty amazing. Same bridge, and during a different season. So sometimes those man-made structures, you know, I'm I'm not a pure nature photographer. I love the nature, but I like a little bit of something human in there once in a while too.
It's off of Centennial.
The best way to get there is from Raritan Road, well, yeah, you could go Centennial and get off Wall Street. Do you know that little street called Wall Street? It's right before you get to the exit by the parkway there. Or you could go on Raritan Road and turn off Mohawk Drive, and Mohawk will take you right there. And then you'll see the bridges, but it's really nice. I'll show you a few more pictures. This is from one of the bridges looking down into the water. Different composition where I said, I'm going to forget the clouds in the sky. I'm going to put the clouds in the water. So people do a double take when they see this one. And there's a little a trail that goes around the little pond. I've heard different names for that pond, Long Pond, and there's another name. I'm not really sure what the real name of the pond is, but we'll just call it Mohawk Park Pond for now. And that's the pond, and it's really nice in the fall. The reflections are really beautiful in the pond. And so I'm going to go back one, but you see there's like a yellow tree and a red tree. When I'm looking at reflections, I try to look for some contrasts. And so I said, well, there was a yellow tree and an orange tree and the blue sky. So I looked for where the ripples intertwined, and I call it a water weaving, right? So just taking a picture out of something mundane, but if you get creative and start thinking, you can find things like this wherever you are. And then a little bit just downstream from there is the area where the Rahway River goes around the town I live in, which is Winfield. And it's undeveloped park, but there is a pathway that goes along the whole river there pretty much. This is above the falls, Winfield Falls. Some people call it Bloodgood's Fall. That's what it is on the map. We just call it the Winfield Falls, but that's the parkway behind those trees right there. It's right there. But you know, if you get down low, you can't really see it, especially in the fall. And I took this with one of those point and shoots that does the panoramas where you just go like this, zoop, and the whole thing comes together. So that was pretty neat. I actually took this picture from a plane to show the people of my town what a treasure we have in Winfield. You see, there's like a patch of green there. That's my town. And I'm trying to encourage people not to cut the trees down, because we have something that Linden right in the front doesn't have. You know, you can see Rahway Park is green. And it seemed to impress the people in my town that we have this, you know, special area. We should really take care of it. And the road that goes around our town, we just call it the county road, but I think the real name is Union County Parkway. This is where I take my walks a couple times a week. And I try to just find something new every time. That's the Winfield Falls in the winter, above the Winfield Falls in the summer. So every year I do a calendar just from the area around my town. It's everything in the calendar is a 10-minute walk from my front door, and people are shocked that I'm finding these pictures. But because I go during different times of the day, different seasons, I always find something new. That's what I'll encourage you to do, is like, if you have a favorite spot, don't just go once or twice. Go when the weather's all different ways, when the sun angle is in different ways, when the river flow is different, and you'll find different things you can photograph. That was a really pretty moonset right over the falls area. And if it's kind of hard to see, I'm going to stand up for the people here in the top right corner. For the Zoom people, there's a comet in this one. It's really tiny. It's like a speck with a little tail on it. And there was one of the comets, a couple comets ago. I said, oh, it's northwest. And I look for spots where you can, especially over water or an expansive area where you can watch the sun and moon kind of get low, and then you could get some interesting pictures. So I said, oh, the comet's supposed to be low in the northwestern sky. Maybe I'll see it at Winfield. And so I set my camera for probably like a 20 or 30-second exposure with a real wide angle lens, and I was able to capture it barely. It was tiny, but you know. So my favorite spot on the river is, I have it during every season. This is my favorite spot on the river. And the people in the picture, I have a personal connection to. I was the teacher of the boy in white, and his father is with him. And that day I was talking to the both of them, and the father told me that my father photographed his mother and father's wedding. So it was like all these connections. And my dad took me out for walks when I was a little girl in this area. And, you know, it's like a very special spot for me, this special area. And that to meet them there that day kind of cemented the whole cycle of life. But that's it. And different composition during the fall on a misty day. And that's it in the winter after the snow. It's not exactly the same composition, but it's the same place. In the summer when it's 100 degrees out, it's only 88 degrees there, so it's nice and cool. And you know, I can walk there from my front yard. Another picture from the falls, got a little bright here. It's a little technique I like to teach people is if you want to get color from the sun, you have to stand facing the sun. Because when I was on the path looking at the river, it wasn't golden, but I know enough now that if I can orient myself so the river is the river's between me and the sun, or the wet sand is between me and the sun, or the path or whatever, then it will turn golden. So you have to move your feet and move around to get the angle of the light so that you could get the color where you want to get the color. And then it makes the picture extra special. So does everyone want to understand what I'm saying? So I had to actually go like this over the river, leaning over, so that I could get the river to be golden like that. Otherwise, it wasn't golden from the ray I was looking. I mean, water's not gold, right? It's just light. And gold water, it's keep your eyes open to the grand landscape and then look at the little details. This one I call pennies from heaven. You could take this kind of picture anywhere. And that was called Fingers of the River because it was after like a lot of water and it made this different patterns in the river and everything. Another little damselfly with the light, the way the light was hitting those rocks. I didn't really see that when I took the picture, but when I looked at the file, I was like surprised. So these are kind of things you can take anywhere you find water. And this day I learned something really interesting about dragonflies and damselflies. So you know how when you're photographing birds, you can put a stick out in a really like a perch out somewhere with a nice background. Well, this day I learned that dragonflies need a place to rest and you can put a stick where you want, stick it in the water and they will come and land on it. So you put it in good light, you put it with a nice background and the dragonfly will land on it. I guarantee it. I learned that day. It's a good little tip. So if you like doing insects. I live pretty close to the river. I get up in the morning. I can see when the light looks nice. So this was one of those mornings I could see the mist coming off the river, and I just grabbed my shoes and I went down there and I took some pictures. So, Rahway River Parkway, home to whatever. What I meant to mention before was because we are so congested and we have so much going on, it's actually easier to find wildlife because they don't have huge places to hide here. They're going to be by the river or they're going to be in a natural area. When I go up to watch on reservation, it's actually harder for me to get pictures because it's too big. And if I go to my sister's in Pennsylvania where it's acres and acres, if I find one bird, I'm happy. So we're kind of lucky because everything is concentrated in the natural areas that we have. And if you get out there enough, you can find them. Yeah, so cute. This one was the story with this one is I was walking during the day and its back was facing me. And I thought I saw a little baby tail in there. And I said, I'm going back in the evening to see if I could see them again. And I went back in the evening and I didn't see the baby, but I got the face looking right at me. So, you have to do the return visits. Well, we got a lot of dead trees, but we've got, a lot of woodpeckers. So if you see the cavities on the trees, keep going back to see if anybody's nesting there. Obviously we got a lot of herons in this county, but this one sticks around all winter long. And, I thought maybe I would use this for some education for people throwing out their fishing line improperly, because this bird, it didn't get caught on it, but it could have gotten caught. You guys know what this bird is?
Oriole. It's an Oriole.
It's an Oriole. So we
Yeah.
used to call them Baltimore Orioles. I think they're called Northern Orioles now.
No,
Is it back to
it's a Baltimore Oriole.
Baltimore Oriole now? Okay.
Yes.
That's not an orchard Oriole.
No, it's
That's
not
got
an
black
orchard.
in it. Yeah, this was just late fall this year. The way that I found them was I listened for the crows, and the crows are bothering something in the trees. And crows and blue jays, if you hear them making commotion, go over and see what's the big fuss, because a lot of times it's an owl or a hawk. They just mob the heck out of them. So the crows led me to them, and I got to watch them for 2 weeks, and then they disappeared somewhere, and I haven't seen them again. But it was very exciting. I went back at night and I took this at something like ISO 256,000 or whatever, but I put the noise reduction and it came out pretty well. This was from a couple years ago, right by the river. I spotted the babies in the evening and I said, well, they're not going anywhere because they can't fly. So I'm just going to come back in the morning when the light is good. Everyone says, oh, owls don't come out in the day. I'm like, what, do they disappear during the day? Of course they're there. They're sleeping or trying to sleep, but they're there. It's harder to take a picture of an owl at night, right? It's dark. So I said, I know I'll go back there tomorrow and they'll be there. And they were there when on the other side of the river, so I didn't bother them. And that was really nice to see. But back to the other part of my photography is looking at the small details, the way the light works on the leaves and, just little things like this. So these just are all, this is the longest section because this is closest to my heart because I love this part of the woods, but it's really a very small area. But you can see I'm inspired there. I find a lot of things to photograph there. Even if I just have a phone, with panorama mode, did you know you could go up and down? I like to tell people that if they don't always realize you could go up and down. If you have like a big tree or some kind of long scene, you could do like a super wide angle picture like that. Okay, so going a little further south from where I live in Winfield is Jackson Pond section of the Rahway River. This is another favorite area, that little island right there. Sometimes there's a goose nest there, but it's just something about that little spot is just really pretty. So when I saw the light that morning, dark on one side, light on the other side, I knew it was going to be dramatic. I just drove down there. It took me 2 minutes and I captured this while the light was still nice. But this is the same little island during the fog. And another thing I like to tell people is like, if it snows and the next day is warm, you're going to get fog because the snow sublimates into the mist. So just think about it, oh, it's going to be warm tomorrow. And you like to take fog pictures, go out and find the fog. The fog is wonderful because it sort of simplifies and smooths your background so that your subject can pop out a little bit more and give you some atmosphere. This was after a rainstorm. It was during the summer and the way the mist came out, I just got lucky and spotted the sunbeams coming in with the mist.
The lake by Featherbed Lane?
No, this is the lake right outside of Rahway River Park. So the lake by Featherbed Lane, I do like, that's a nice lake too. That's part of the Clark Reservoir, right? That's
Yes.
the end of
Yeah.
there. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So this is what they call Jackson Falls. So it all doesn't look real, but it really looked like that. And I was so excited, except I really hate that they cut the trees down so they had a view, but that's what let the light in, it's like, okay, so that's what let the light in. So I printed the picture and I went over there and knocked on their door and I wanted to give it to them. And they said, it was like a teenager that answered the door. She's like, okay. And that was it. So I don't know whether the family liked it or not, but this is the day the mothership landed in Rahway Park. So Rahway River Parkway is that the whole long snaking area I was telling you about, but Rahway Park itself is, it's become more and more sportified. They've taken a lot of the original Olmsted design features and added stadiums and, stuff like swimming pool. There's all kinds of stuff. So it's kind of getting chipped away from the nature, but it's still a good place to photograph nature. Or people in nature. One of the hallmarks of some of the parks in our area that were designed by the Olmsteds are these alleyways of trees. You see them at Warnaco Park, there's these long lines of trees. There's the remnants of one in Rahway Park. It's still there. It's a couple of the trees have gotten cut down, but this is kind of like the same picture during different seasons with a person. And I sort of like that motif of like a person in nature, or a person on a path. I keep returning to that a lot. But take a look for those areas because they do make some nice pictures during the different seasons. And there's a little pond in Rahway Park that's got some nice plantings around it. And have you used those little crystal balls? Those are kind of fun. It's just like a little crystal ball that will refract what's behind it, and then you have to flip it upside down if you don't want your picture to be upside down. So I was holding it this way, and then I had to flip it for the picture. It's just a little fun little thing to play with. You could borrow mine if you want. Don't go out and buy one. I use it about once every 4 years. Here's another comet. Okay, so again, when I was trying to find a comet, I was looking for a place that had a lake or a field so I could see down low, and I was able to get one over in Rahway that day. This is a nighttime picture. It's just such a long exposure that it's got you could see all the light, the color that's still in the trees and everything. I was kind of shocked that my sensor took all that in. And if you don't have a lake, sometimes you have a puddle. Puddles are everywhere. They make great reflections. They amplify the color that's already there. There's another puddle. This one I took with the cell phone. And the colors in the fall and the spring make really great backgrounds. I think Charlene, we were together this day. We were walking around the park, and except not for that one, but oops, sorry. Yeah, so there's some nice trees there and some nice opportunities. So you could kind of see across the field when the moon's fairly low over there. But the water can make it extra interesting color if you could get the reflection of the spring or fall colors in it. A bunch of years ago, we had a wood duck that was in love with a mallard, and they were hanging out at Rahway Park, and it was great because he wasn't afraid like most wood ducks. So yeah, just some pictures from around Rahway Park Pond. This winter, I really loved, I spent a lot of time outside this winter. I was just really, I didn't care how cold it was. I went out every day, especially in the fog. In the fog, things really pop out. These are some of the trees of Rahway Park. And because of the fog, you can't see the sports complex in the background. It just sort of erased it to make a more pure sort of image like this. All right, so now leaving Rahway, going down a little bit to the lower Rahway, there is a sanctuary, lower Rahway River in Linden. There's a sanctuary that's a collaboration between New Jersey Audubon and the city of Linden. It's called Hawk Rise. Have you guys been here? Have you been here? Yeah, so it's interesting. It's almost 100 acres. There's a lot of, it's mostly marshy, salt marsh, but there's an upland wooded section, and there's a trail, raised pathway. You can walk around there. I've heard owls back there, coyote ones. I heard turkeys there once. Like there's a lot of stuff there. So it's always worth checking out. It's kind of an interesting. And the first time I went there, I got the first connection of the Rahway River as a tidal river. Like I could smell the salt water and everything. I was like, wow, we're really connected to the ocean, through the Rahway River, Arthur Kill and everything. It's kind of a neat feeling. And that's the incinerator down in Lower Rahway. But when they came in, they had to like make good or something like that. So they planted a bunch of flowers and nice trees and native trees and everything. So there's a tiny little park called Riverfront Park. And it's just off of Route 1, but it's a nice little place to take a walk and take some flower pictures. And then there's another little park across from the Rahway Library that I just learned the name today. I just didn't even know it had a name, but it's named after a Vietnam vet who died in combat, Myron Rudolph Ross II, who's from Rahway. And there's a environmental center there. So these were some pictures near the incinerator. Sometimes I get creative and I spin my camera around or I shake it around and I get different things. That was with the cell phone. Okay, so not on the Rahway River Parkway, just to the left, there's Oak Ridge Park, which is contiguous with Ashbrook Reservation. Have you guys been there? It used to be a golf course. Yeah,
Yeah.
you've been there. Well, many of you have been there. There used to be a county golf course, and then I forget how many years it was. Can anyone tell me, like 15 years or
Yeah, it's a
2010?
yeah.
Probably about 15.
15,
Yeah.
It's park now, and there's a nice walking trail around there, but there's also a big stadium. And because it's right next to the Ashbrook Reservation, which is totally undeveloped and really difficult to get through because there's not really any paths, but it's a great habitat for a lot of different animals. So a lot of things come over to Oak Ridge. It's my favorite place to photograph hawks, eagles. There's merlins there that hang out there, and there's beautiful trees. So like this winter, that's one of the places I went to for photographing the trees in the snow. This is the technique I was telling you about. See how the path lit up gold? That's only because I'm facing the sun. So just keep that in mind. You could get color in your pictures that way. Again, during the snow around Oak Ridge. And this was my favorite tree. They cut it down last year. It was so sad. It was a dead tree for years and years, and it was a favorite tree for hawks to hang out on. And in fact, I think that's a little merlin at the top right now. I can't really be sure, but like this picture I call Hawk Talk. A couple of years ago, I watched a pair of red-tailed hawks raise their children, and this was on Father's Day, and it was like the babies were finally out of the house, and they were like the parents finally had their date on the tree, but they cut that tree down, so now they got to go date somewhere else. This was just this winter, another one of the dead trees. Yeah, so this okay, trigger warning, there's dead mice in the next two pictures. It's just a great place to watch hawks. They hunt and they don't even care that you're there. This guy caught this vole and landed right over my head. I was like, I gotta get out of the way. There's gonna be guts flying on me. And there he is eating the vole right over me. I didn't even have my longest lens. It would have been too long at that point. And sometimes there's just interesting patterns and things that you can photograph at Oak Ridge. A few years ago, the heron rookery that was in Ashbrook has moved closer to Oak Ridge, so you could spot the herons in the nests. It's a hard picture to get because there's just a lot of sticks and stuff in the way, and they're a little bit far. But they've returned the last couple of years, and this picture was taken last June. That nest, and those are 3 babies begging. They're big, you know. I don't know how they fit in those nests, you know. So it's, instead of driving the Ocean City to the rookery, you could go over there a little bit later in the season and watch the babies. It's also just a pretty place for, you know, peace of mind, and it's very spacious. Looks like it was from a plane, but it's just looking out, you know, over the Oak Ridge Park. You can see the moon coming up. You can see the moon behind the red-tailed hawks. You can see the moon behind the merlins. I think people get sick of my moon pictures, but I don't care. I love it. So if you go out like 1 or 2 nights before the full moon, it comes up earlier, as it comes up while it's still light out, and then you can position yourself. If you see a bird or something, you can put yourself in line, do the juxtaposition like that. That's what Charlene and Naveen and I were out that night taking. This is the one I put in the senior art show this year, so you'll see it. So someone mentioned the Featherbed Lane, the Clark Reservoir. So right now, the Clark Reservoir, which feeds into one of the branches of the Rahway River, the Robinson branch, I think, is under, they're dredging it now. It looks terrible. It's a big mud puddle. Have you seen it from the Parkway? But during good years, it's kind of an interesting place to photograph. There's often eagles that fish right under the spillway there, ospreys, herons. You know, it's got some nice scenery. It does kind of go on, there are private homes there, but technically they don't own up to the reservoir. And I think they're putting a path around now. So there's a lot of construction going on there. This section, I was doing some advocacy for saving the trees of Clark Reservoir Forest. So I went and I did like a little survey there, and I photographed a lot of things, which they ended up not cutting all the trees down, but they did cut a lot down. But one of the things I found there was a cicada killer wasp. Have you guys ever seen these things? I heard this buzzing and I said, what's going on? And I noticed this big cicada, like it had a wasp on the ground, and it was like stinging it and getting ready to eat it. And then it climbed up the tree with it and started eating it. It was a cool nature moment, but I felt bad for that poor cicada. All right, so another favorite park was Warnanko Park. It's towards Elizabeth. It's on the border of Elizabeth and Roselle. This picture here got into the Newark Airport Terminal A when they first opened and had the new art there. There's beautiful magnolias there. There's a lot of nice cherry blossoms. There's a pond. There are shovelers that come to the pond. There's yellow crowned night herons that actually nest somewhere in the neighborhood. I haven't seen them recently, but many years I photographed them there. Those are the lines of trees that I mentioned, the alley, LA, they call it the LA of trees. During all the seasons is really pretty. They just cut down about 60 oak trees to put in a new ice skating rink. Don't get me started. I was also trying to help that, but didn't really get anywhere. And it's just a pretty place to photograph during all the seasons. And these are some of the animals that you might see there. Once again, you could get creative by shaking your camera a little bit, you know, that's on the alley of trees. I like to look for contrasting elements. So dark tree trunks with the colorful leaves kind of gives you a nice kind of image like that.
I have a large tulip patch too.
Yeah, when I was kids, we used to go get our Easter pictures there, but they've changed it. You're talking about that big one in the middle?
Yeah.
Have you been there recently?
They have
it's-
last year, I mean, they have a new fountain that they put in the middle of.
Is
that.
it tulips now, though? I thought they were moving towards native plants or something.
I didn't go this year to see what.
Yeah, I was there the other day, and it looked like something different, but it was historically a beautiful tulip patch. I was kind of sad when they changed it, but you know, native plants are important. So the funny thing is, I used to work at the Watchung Reservation. It's 2,000 acres. It's our county's largest park, and I don't have a lot of pictures from there. Part of it was because, like I'm saying, it's the wildlife isn't concentrated. It's also a little further, like everything else so far I've shown you is only within like 10 or 15 minutes from where I live. This is like 20, 25 minutes, but there are a lot of opportunities there. There's Surprise Lake. This is kind of at the far end of Surprise Lake. I know there's lots of different kinds of animals and amphibians and everything. Frozen Lake makes some interesting abstracts. I did hoot and an owl came to check me out once. So. And then just below there's Echo Lake, and that's also one of the Olmsted parks. That was a sunrise. That was a sunset looking the other way, trying to get that gold line, leading line to come at me. Oh, so do you guys know about Brightwood Park? I know Lenny knows, Charlene knows.
Yeah.
It used to be called Taylor Park. It's in Westfield on Prospect, off like just up the street from Trader Joe's. It's like, to me, it's like someone took a piece of the Watch on Mountains and threw it down the hill. It's really nice. There's a pond in the middle. There's a nice trail. There's all kinds of wildlife. There's green herons there. And there's like a section where there's a bunch of beech trees that have that really light bark, and the sun comes in, and I think that's why they named it Brightwood. I don't know if that's true, but I thought it was a great name when I saw the way the light played in there. So there's a couple pictures from around the pond. That's Giselle, my friend Giselle. This winter we were tromping around, looking up. Lenny, we were throwing rocks in the water and trying to catch the splashes. That was fun. And there's another park I don't get to too often in Springfield that's called called Bryant Park. And that's also really well maintained. They have nice signage. They have no smoking in the park. There's a trail in the woods and around the pond. It's not far off of Route 78. And then on the northwest side of our county, there's the Passaic River Park, which is it's very wet. It's like a floodplain park. So I wouldn't go after a lot of rain, but there are some nice places to walk near the river. I don't know Cedar Brook very well. Have any of you from Plainfield? I've been there a couple times. There's a Shakespeare garden there. There's a nice pond. Yeah. So photograph the flowers. And someone told me there was a mink there, but I never found it. All right, who knows where this is? Oh, yeah, right, so this is the bowl, they call it the bowl, full of daffodils. Did anybody go this year? I didn't go this year. They charge you $10 now, right, if you want to go in the spring?
Only for the daffodils.
Oh, okay, yeah, so you could go to there for free any other time. And yeah, it's a wonderful,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful arboretum, conservatory. You remember, great, do you want to tell us a little about it, or no?
They do a lot for the children. On Saturdays, they have walking tours at the spring. During the season, that's a daffodil flag. Unbelievable. It's so gorgeous. The festival, I think, is this weekend also.
Oh, okay.
It
So
was
they're
this
still blooming.
weekend.
It just this past weekend, or it's coming up?
I think it's
this past.
was this past
But I'm
weekend.
sure there's some late daffodils that are still.
Oh, they'll
coming
still
through.
be.
Yeah,
And-
the goats. There's goats there. They're so cute.
They have a lot of tulips also.
Oh, right along the building, right?
Yeah.
And-
I guess meadows sometimes it's kind of very catch can, but it can be interesting to walk down there and get a lot of bees
Yep,
and stuff.
yep. And you know what my favorite thing is in there is these. Okay, so there are these giant flowers called cup plants because the leaves cup the stem, and the chipmunks run up. And if you see a flower going like this, you know there's a chipmunk in it. Then you grab your camera and you get the picture of them eating they don't eat the fresh flowers, they eat the ones that are just past fresh. Yeah, it's the cutest thing.
It's a fun piece to be here at the bright light, and these hummingbirds love the black and blue flowers, and they have some other big flowers, and the buzzing is just amazing.
Yeah, they're choop, 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 choop all around. Hummingbirds are easier to catch when they're not flying. This is why these are perched right here. I do get lucky once in a while. I was surprised it was feeding from a Rose of Sharon plant. That was really something. And then I think, was this the flower you were talking about?
Yeah.
It's a salvia of some kind. Yeah, they're, yeah, those
Yeah,
are,
4 hummingbird feeding them. And only ones that I catch. I think they must be there and I don't see them. You have to just be lucky and look
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
It's incredible.
It's everything happens so fast,
Yeah.
but it's a great place to practice photographing hummingbirds.
Lots closed off right now because they're putting in handicap walk areas.
Yeah, so that's gonna change things this summer, but hopefully everything will come back.
You can still get in, but you can't park in unless you have a handicap.
Oh, you can't park in the lot now?
Not when they're under the construction.
Oh, so you
but
have to
I
park
get
on-
Go in because I have an.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Sticker.
Oh, so there's this giant old tree there. They
Yeah.
call it the elephant tree. One day I just took pictures of this is from one tree, the bark on the tree. It was kind of an interesting project. There's a nearby arboretum called Cara Hartshorn Arboretum. It's a 5 minutes drive away from Reeves Reed. I recommend going there. There's a nice path through the woods. They have beautiful tulip poplar trees there. They have a kind of messy-ish garden, but there's like a lot of insects and butterflies and everything there. So it's definitely worth checking that out if you're up in the area. And then there's like all these little random parks. Like I'm not going to mention them all. I used to live next to this park in Linden for a couple years, and I like the trees there. And then this is my favorite tulip tree in the county. Well, one of them in McConnell Park where the river makes this curve. It's a really big old tree. And these pictures were all taken in cemeteries. You never know. Like someday I'm going to do a book called Cemetery Safari because I see a lot of animals. And the bottom picture, I just darkened the bottom. If you look closely, you can see the gravestones. But just that one tree with the sunset was just glorious. One time I saw this eagle getting escorted. That was really something. And this picture I made during the pandemic, cemeteries again are open spaces so you can see the sun and the moon low in the sky, which is when they make the best pictures. And it was during the pandemic, and I felt like the social distancing, like I wanted to be close, but I wasn't allowed to be close, So that's why that sort of struck me. That scene struck me right then. Then we have a little airport in Linden. There was a sundog and this plane went off into it. I thought that was kind of fun. I sent it to the airport and they sent it to the pilot. They said he was really appreciative of it. Flowers along the parkway. You've seen them, right? Right,
Yeah.
once the exits, do I have one more? Yeah, so I got down low so that you couldn't see the cars, it's not that hard to do.
It is when you can't get down.
Bring it to all. Yeah, they do grow pretty high though. They're getting up.
So you get there, it's hard to get back.
Yeah, this is by 136. Now, this is just the green bottle fly, but so I want to say go in your own backyard, and I'm going to say to Lenny, because he's always in his backyard taking pictures of the most magnificent insects. I nowhere near your skill with that, but I just thought this was so cool. I never saw them blow out this honeydew. Have you seen that? It's something after the rain or something like that, or is it exuding or?
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're doing, but it's pretty awesome.
I know, it's like just in my own backyard. So, oops, is that something you want to click out? I was gonna tell you what I did today, okay? So I kind of like showed you a bunch of places around the county to photograph. And here's like a day in the life of a nature photographer. What did I do today? Okay. Well, the first thing I did today was I got up and I asked Siri, what's the weather? And she said, it's going to rain in 10 minutes. And I look out and it's a perfectly blue sky. And I was like, oh no, I got 10 minutes to go take a picture before the clouds come in. So I run over to Oak Ridge in Clark. And I did not have my camera. I had my lens, I had everything else. I didn't have my camera. I didn't have my coffee. This is the problem. I thought I had 10 minutes to get out there. So I said, all right, I'm going to take a walk. I need my exercise and I'll just use my phone today. Like, okay, I could take pictures with my phone. So the first part of my day, I took pictures with my phone. And these are some of the things I saw. The wet grass with the dandelions, and you could put the phone down low without having to lay in the wet grass. So that was kind of good. And I tried to do a selfie. I put the phone on the ground. I was out of focus. Then the flower was out of focus. And I said, oh, maybe I'll focus back. And I was like, nah, I'll just take a picture of the dandelion. Then I said, you know what? My favorite thing is when I don't know what to photograph, which isn't usually happen to me, I just look for the light. And then I said, oh, there's beautiful light. It's just beautiful light. And this time of year, you get the little tender leaves with the light shining through it. And I just started around following the light and I took pictures. The phone doesn't do a great job with them, but it's training, I'm still looking. And then when I go back to my camera, I'll know what to do. So, but I just saw the moon back there. Okay, then I had lunch with Charlene. Then we said, let's go to Mindawasket Park in Westfield. Don't worry, I don't have the picture of you posing on the bridge. We had a lot of fun, but it's just a little city park, but people like this bridge, for graduation pictures or whatever. But the pond is pretty scummy right now, so I'm not recommending it. But there were some nice pink flowers. However, I said, let's go to Fairview Cemetery. So these pictures I took today, I really didn't edit them. I just threw them in the program. So like, they're not perfect or whatever. But there's so many beautiful flowers at Fairview Cemetery. It's also an arboretum. Okay, that's where my family's plot is. My parents are there today. My dad's would have been his 106th birthday. So I wanted to go to the cemetery today. And he's the one I learned photography from. So we wandered around the cemetery, and what was kind of cool was that when the wind blew, all the petals were streaming through the air. And I should have put a video on here, but it was almost like, we were talking, it was almost like spiritual in a way, like the spirits cast on the wind or something like that from the graves. I don't know. It's just a nice feeling. But I was looking at the flowers, and the point I'm trying to make now is that photograph flowers, but also consider how could they be a background for something else. So like there's a lot of big swaths of color there. There's crab apples. They're not quite ready yet. The cherries, the big fat cherries are really nice now. Look at the flower, but then look for something else to put in front of the flower with that in the distance, and you get nice backgrounds that way. And you can do that anywhere. It's just keep it in mind. Things can also just be color fields for the background. So I was playing around with that today. Then I decided to shake the camera a little bit. They have a beautiful daffodil area where the ashes are scattered. And I said, this is also like spirits rising or something like that. And then I was spinning around, zooming the camera while I was taking the picture. So this is just playing around today at the different natural areas. Does anyone know where this is?
Yeah.
Yeah, right around the corner from the cemetery is Union County College, and that's your neighborhood? Cool. So they do programs every Friday night, and public is invited. I think it's every Friday. You could look it through the telescope and everything. But there's also this really cool historic tree grove with all these tree specimens that were grown from seed from famous trees or famous things. It's quite interesting to go there. But notice there's a pond behind it. We were headed to the pond. And as soon as we got there, oh, 3 wood ducks were right there. We just kind of did these grab shots. Not perfect. It's not a competition picture, but they're wood ducks right there. So it was really great. And in the past, I photographed warblers there. It's just a nice place to go for nature. It's just tucked in right over there. Okay, so I'm getting towards the end here. Hopefully you're still awake, everybody. And I wanted to mention to you a group called Union County Connects. It's a group that is trying to connect the rail trails and hiking trails to Union County. And they've gotten some grant money, and they've been going ahead and building bridges and connecting and everything like that. So all these colors that you see are the trails that are proposed or in progress that are all going to be connected. And you can they'll be available for hiking and for bike riding and things like that. So it's a great group. They do a hike every year. There's one coming up soon. This is one of the old rail trails off of Roselle, I think. I think it's sort of, I forget exactly where now how we got on this trail, but it was it cut up through Springfield, like from Roselle to Springfield, but I forget exactly how we got on the trail. But anyway, so it's a nice group, and they have some hikes, and they're really working hard to make these available to us so we could get into our county. Oh wow, we'll get to the end. So I wanted to show you me when I was a little girl by the Rahway River, looking very silly as I was trying to fish. This is me now with my gear. So I'm better equipped with my gear now. And this is my website. And if anybody wants to add anything, I'm going to stop right now. But did you learn a few new places to go? You get some ideas? Does anybody want to throw anything else out as far as places they go that I missed in Union County?
I think in Fairview, it's really warm, welcoming for people to walk around and take pictures.
They have a sign that says no recreational activities. I've never been talked to there. I mean, my family plot is there, so I could always say I'm visiting or whatever. I mean, after Whitney Houston was buried there, they had hordes of people coming to visit, and I think they got a little more strict about it. But I think as long as you're respectful and, I don't know, I've never had a problem there. But keep it in mind,
They have a walking tours through the cemetery too.
Yeah, Tom Umbrella.
There's one this Sunday.
I highly recommend them. And there's like a tree tour you could go on with the guy who did the tree
That's-
planting.
That's what we're talking about. Yeah, tree tour.
He's amazing. He's a great storyteller and you learn so much from him. Tom Umbrella, his name's Dr. Umbrella. He works at the college.
I don't know if anybody online has any questions.
Does anybody online have any questions? You can unmute yourself and
It's not so much a question, but I go to Echo Lake a lot, and I tend to see just about any kind of bird you want to see out there. I was out there a couple of Thursdays ago and saw an eagle and an osprey on the same day. I got better shots of the osprey than the eagle.
wonderful. I'm just going to repeat your comments. Eagle and osprey at Echo Lake. He says he sees any kind of birds there. Yeah, there used to be a club called the Greater Watch on Nature Club, and they would do a lot of walks. Is anyone on Pete Axelrod's email list besides
Yes.
me? Pete,
Learning starts in this weekend.
the next 4 Sundays, there's bird walks throughout the county parks. And if you want to get on the email list, you could give me your email and I'll make sure you get onto it because there's some really great walks and you learn a lot about birds on them. Anybody else on Zoom or in person? Comments?
Yeah, some really beautiful pictures. Can you just talk about some of the lenses you use for your photography?
Sure. He asked what lenses do I use? So I'm a real fan of zoom lenses. I like all-in-one zoom lenses. So most of the time I have an all-in-one zoom lens on me. The current zoom lens I use right now goes from 28 millimeters to 400 millimeters. A lot of these pictures were taken with the Nikon 28 to 300. But the new 400 millimeter, it's great. So that's my walk around lens, I would say, except for some of the bird and moon pictures, that's what I use pretty much for everything. I have other lenses. I have faster lenses if I know the light's going to be really bad, but for outdoor stuff, that zoom lens works fine. I also have I was using the Nikon 200 to 500 for the birds and the zoom, but now I have the 600 PF that I use for my birds and stuff. Hopefully
What
that
about
answers
for the
your
insects?
questions. Say again?
For the insects?
I'm just still using the zoom lens at the far side of the zoom. So I used to carry 105 macro, but I don't really carry it anymore. So I mostly just zoom into the insects now. It's not perfect, but it's easy. I never exactly know what I'm photographing. So the all-in-one zoom really suits my style and I could be very flexible with it. Thank you for the question. Anybody else have any questions, comments?
Hey, Jackie.
Yeah, hey Naveen, you're awake.
I'm awake, yes. I don't know if you mentioned it, but every time I go to Linden Hawkeyes, I go to Oros also, which is not that far.
Yes, so Naveen,
A lot
so
of bugs there and fish
yeah.
and frogs and snakes and stuff.
Yeah, it's called Oros Nature Preserve. It's actually in Woodbridge. It's a part of the Woodbridge River Watch, so it's not technically in our county, but it's really close to Hawk Rise and that area down there. So it's OROS. Just check for ticks afterward, or it's got some tall grass or whatever. But we just got the lights
Yeah.
turned on us. Thank you, Naveen, for mentioning it. It's
You're welcome.
a great place to explore.
I'm going to mention one thing about Hawk Rise. If you're going to go down there, go with someone else. Don't go by yourself.
Oh, I've been by myself.
I
Well,
go too, but are there?
you should,
problems?
yeah.
All right, bring a bodyguard, everybody.
No, just if there's 2 people, you're fine.
Yeah, it's kind of out of the way. And I
Yeah.
never had a problem at Oros, but that's also kind of out of the way. It's right next to the prison too. So if there are any escaped convicts, that's where they're gonna be hiding out in the swamp right there.
Now, there's a group of kids that have taken to hanging out down there.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Have you been to South Mountain Reservation?
Yes. Do you want to tell us what your favorite places are there?
I don't have a favorite place.
Oh, so South Mountain Reservation. Yeah, I tried to keep it to Union County, but you're right. There's so many places. South Mountain has a beautiful waterfalls called Hemlock Falls. It's only a 5-10 minute walk and it's falling over beautiful basalt rock. It's really nice.
South Orange Avenue?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Um,
Oh, the Ferry House Trail.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a sculpture garden by the dog park. There's a cool sculpture garden.
And the interesting thing is the little pond where On one side is Turtleback Zoo and the other side is now McClune's and some sort of a playground. When they put the aerators into that pond, all the wildlife came back.
And just last week, an eagle flew right over and caught a fish right in front of me outside of McClune's. Literally. People were taking pictures with their cell phones as it was coming down. It's crazy. Yeah.
When I moved to Jersey, I was trying to, my daughter was a skater, so we kept driving through the reservation. That was the dreariest looking place.
But now, yeah.
Joey D's done a fabulous job with all the parks in Essex. The county executive. He's an old friend.
And I go down, not in Union County, but I photograph a lot, the Raritan Bay a lot. There's a lot of interesting places down there to photograph as well. That's a whole different program. So, well, thank you for your attention and, you know, keep out, getting out.
Okay, if there's no more questions from online, I'm going to say good night to everybody online.
Good night, online.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for coming.
Good night.
Goodbye. Good night.